Most people think angels exist to comfort humans, to guide them, to protect them, to reassure them that everything will be fine. That image does not come from the text, it comes from paintings, from statues carved long after the stories were written, from generations trying to turn something unsettling into something familiar. But in the earliest descriptions, angels do not arrive gently. They interrupt. They appear without warning, in moments when the outcome is already sealed. A lineage is about to fracture. A city is about to disappear. A life is about to be redirected in a way that cannot be undone. Their presence changes the environment before a single word is spoken. Conversation stops. The air feels heavier. Time seems to hesitate. People fall to the ground not because they are told to, but because their bodies react before their minds can. And then comes the phrase that repeats again and again. Do not be afraid. Not as comfort, as instruction, because fear has already taken control of the nervous system. If angels were naturally reassuring, that sentence would never be necessary. What follows in the text is not a hierarchy, not a ranking, not a catalog of strange beings. It is a progression, a slow movement away from anything recognizable, and towards something that no longer needs to explain itself. It begins at the furthest edge, with beings whose only task is to observe. They are described as watchers. They are not leaders, not messengers, not warriors. They are assigned no speeches, no corrections, no authority to interfere. They watch humanity grow violent. They watch desire turn into obsession. They watch patterns repeat again and again. And they do nothing. That alone is unsettling, because observation without intervention is a quiet form of dominance, power that sees everything and answers to no one. According to ancient tradition, even that distance did not last. Some of these watchers became absorbed by what they observed, not by humanity's ethics, but by its physicality. Bodies that age, desire that consumes, limits that provoke curiosity. They crossed a boundary that was never meant to be crossed. They descended. They interfered. They altered what they were assigned to study. And the world destabilized. Violence accelerated. Power concentrated in the wrong places. Hybrid beings appeared, figures described as immense, uncontrollable, destructive. And the response was not debate. There were no second chances, no attempts at correction, only removal. The watchers were restrained, bound, hidden away where observation could no longer become involvement. The message is never explained, but it lingers beneath the story. Even distance from humanity is safer than closeness. After this point, angels are no longer passive. They become agents. When outcomes must be enforced, different beings appear.
These angels do not arrive to persuade. They arrive when persuasion is no longer relevant. In one account, a single angel moves through a city while everyone sleeps. No fire, no sound. By morning, entire households are gone. In another, an army prepared for conquest lies scattered at dawn, weapons untouched, armor still on their bodies. No battle took place, only a decision and its execution. What makes these angels disturbing is not brutality, it is efficiency. They do not act out of anger, they do not hesitate. They function more like instruments than personalities, judgment carried out without hatred and without mercy. As the narrative moves inward, the angels change again. Now they are no longer sent to destroy, they are placed to guard. They stand at thresholds humanity is never meant to cross again. The first permanent exile in the story is enforced by them. The way back is not blocked by walls or armies, but by presence. They are described with multiple faces, multiple wings, eyes covering their bodies. Nothing about them suggests dialogue. They do not ask questions. They do not respond to remorse. They exist to prevent return. Behind them is fire, moving, living, turning in every direction at once. From this point forward, angels stop feeling like individuals. They begin to resemble systems, structures of authority rather than beings with personalities. Then the text introduces something far more unsettling. There are moments when an angel appears, and the distinction between messenger and source collapses. The being speaks with absolute authority, receives obedience without explanation, accepts worship without correction. The human encountering it cannot tell whether they are standing before a representative or before the power itself,
briefly contained in a visible form. The text refuses to clarify, and that ambiguity is intentional, because fear intensifies when you don't know who is speaking. As the descriptions continue, form itself begins to dissolve. Some angels are no longer described as having bodies in any meaningful sense. They are fire, they are motion, they are sound. They repeat the same declaration endlessly, not because they lack will, but because proximity to absolute authority leaves no room for variation. They do not explore, they do not choose. Even they cannot look directly at what they surround. They cover themselves, not in shame, but in limitation. And when they interact with humans, the contact is never gentle. Purification burns, correction wounds, transformation leaves marks that do not fade. Finally, the narrative abandons familiarity altogether. The last beings described do not resemble creatures. They are not given faces. They are given geometry, wheels within wheels, movement without turning, eyes covering every surface. They move in all directions without changing orientation, as if space itself bends around them. They do not speak. They do not react. They accompany the highest authority not as servants, but as infrastructure. They are not messengers. They are mechanisms, platforms of motion, awareness without personality. At this level, power no longer requires emotion. It no longer requires explanation. It simply operates. When humans encounter this, there is no dialogue, no interpretation, only collapse. Because instinct understands something the mind cannot process, these beings are not here for you. They are not here because of you, and they do not adapt themselves to human understanding. The command, "Do not be afraid," is not reassurance, it is containment. Because fear is the correct response when something vast, intelligent, and indifferent to your comprehension enters your reality. Maybe angels were never meant to be comforting. Maybe they exist to remind humanity of something far more unsettling. That power, stripped of human projection, is never warm. And when it finally appears, it does not ask permission. It arrives.